Hey guys, so before I start this video, I just wanted to say that this is based on my experience as a breastfeeding mom who has weaned two children. However, I am not a lactation specialist or a doctor, so if you have specific breastfeeding complications or questions about your own breastfeeding journey or weaning journey, or you're having serious problems that you cannot resolve on your own, I would contact your postpartum care team or a lactation consultant on those specific matters.
Guys, welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. I'm actually really excited for today's video because I think it's an important topic. I wish it was a video that I had stumbled upon actually when I was breastfeeding or just giving birth or postpartum. I'm sorry if it's a little dark. I'm kind of doing this video a little bit late and the lighting isn't the best, but I'm gonna try to edit that in, after editing. But basically today I want to talk about how to successfully wean your baby once you are done with your breastfeeding journey and trying to wean your baby. For context, I have two daughters, one of which I breastfed for only a few months, and we did not have a very successful breastfeeding journey due to a lot of complications. Like I got mastitis a couple times, infections, clogged ducts, and I really didn't have a lot of education on breastfeeding. Also, I didn't have a lot of education on weaning, and weaning was so stressful for me the first time around when I first had my first daughter. This time around, I do have a 10-month-old baby that I have breastfed. We've had a pretty successful breastfeeding journey, except for the fact that I am a low producer. But honestly, I was able to combo feed her, so I'm still very happy that I was able to still breastfeed her for these months and months. And I decided a while ago that I was going to make it to her first year, but I wanted her off the breast by her first year. And so when she turned about 9.5 months, I started weaning her, and I am still in the process of weaning her. I'm almost done weaning her. She's probably going to be fully weaned off by 11 months, so just shy of that year. I'll get into why I'm doing it that way. But I'm going to get into my weaning process and how it's been more successful this time, how I avoided complications while weaning, and kind of my process and why I did what I did. Little disclaimer, I am not a lactation specialist, I am not a doctor, and if you need specific medical breastfeeding questions, I would consult a lactation specialist with those. And also, there are multiple methods of weaning, so this is not the only way. So if this sounds like it won't work for you for any reason, you can research other ways as well. Maybe this is not the one for you, but I'm just going with my experience, and this was a successful breastfeeding journey. I was able to make it to her first year, through her first year, even though it was combo fed, but like I said, able to make it through her first year. And I was also, now that I'm in the weaning process, it's been a very successful weaning process. I haven't had any complications, any pain. It's been way smoother, and I'll get into it. But this is not the only way to wean. So research and see which is best for you. This is just my experience, like I said. So, like I said, this is my second daughter. So with her, I combo fed just because of low production, but I did produce more milk than I did the first time. So I really just supplemented with milk for the first 6 months. Sorry, allergies. I really just supplemented with milk for the first 6 months, and now that she's 10 months, she's over 6 months. Well, when she turned 6 months, she started doing solids, so less formula and even more breast milk, and then breast milk and food, sometimes supplement with formula, but it wasn't that much. And then now she's 10 months, so I'm weaning her off. So now it's more formula, because I'm at the point of weaning where I'm literally only breastfeeding for the night bottle before she goes to bed. So during the day, it's all formula and food. So she is introduced to solids already because she's almost a year, she's 10 months. So she's eating a lot more foods, and then she's doing formula during the day. And then for the evening bottle, the night bottle, right before bed, she does half breast milk, half formula. There's no food for that bottle. So because there's no food, she obviously needs the supplementation of formula. So she'll do about 4 ounces at this point of formula. And I believe I produce, there's no way to tell how much you really produce, but based on how she eats throughout the day, I would say since she's drinking about 4 ounces in the night, I produce about 3, which makes up a total of 5 or 6, which is like basic for her age and what she eats. And like I said, she eats food throughout the day. So that's where we're at. Let me backtrack. So one of my tips that I'm going to give you is to start out with mindset when it comes to breastfeeding in general. Start out with mindset. You want to have a realistic and flexible mindset when it comes to breastfeeding because you don't know what's going to happen once you give birth, but you want to have positivity. However, you want to set your goals small and build up. So when I first gave birth to my second daughter, I made a goal that I wanted to breastfeed, but I didn't put any time on it. I just said, I really want to breastfeed her. I know that I'm a low producer. I know I had complications last time, but I don't want to like go straight to formula and give up. I want to breastfeed. We had a way successful breastfeeding journey right off the bat. She latched way better than my first daughter. So once that happened, I was like, oh, okay. Once that happened, I made a goal of, okay, I'm going to try to breastfeed for at least 6 months, which is minimum recommendation, which I didn't make with my first daughter. My first daughter, I believe I only breastfed her for 3 to 4 months, and there was way too much going on, both mentally and physically. However, with my second daughter, once I made it to 6 months, there were times where it was rough, but I made it to 6 months. That's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to breastfeed her till she's 1, but I want her off the boob by 1. So here's the thing with weaning. You kind of have to prep ahead, which is my first thing. You kind of have to prep ahead because if I decided, okay, I'm going to breastfeed her for the whole first year, and then I started weaning her once she turned a year, she turns a year in June, then technically I wouldn't be completely done breastfeeding till about August, because in my case, it takes about 2 months based on the method that I'm doing. So I didn't want that. I wanted her to be off the breast by a year. So I started weaning her at 9.5 months. And then now by like 10 months, she's like about 10.5. She's about to be 11 months. That's where we're at the point of only night feeds. And then in about 2 weeks, or probably by the time this video is posted, I'll probably be done with breastfeeding her. And then I'll explain the next steps. So my milk probably won't be dried up till her first birthday, but she'll be off the breast in about 2 weeks. And so you have to plan ahead of do you want the baby off by their first birthday, or do you want to breastfeed for the whole first year, which means you're really going to breastfeed for about a year and 2 to 3 months, because it takes a while to wean. Your milk does not dry up instantly, especially if you've breastfed for over 6 months. So that's my second thing. Know how long you breastfed. If you breastfed for under 6 months, if you're trying to wean a baby after 3 to 4 months, you can't do it anymore, or you've decided not to breastfeed, or you're unable to breastfeed for any reason, you are still going to have to wean your baby, but you're probably going to be more susceptible to complications because your breasts are going to be more full because you're in those first days postpartum. Also, however, though, your milk might dry up quicker because your body hasn't fully gotten used to it. However, after 6 months, if you've breastfed your baby for 6 months or more, it's going to take a process to get your body used to it. Now, for me, I believe that my body was really ready to start weaning because it's been way smoother. I also believe that this time I was more educated about it and took my time, which is why I really like this method that I used. So what I did is once I was ready to start weaning her, I basically decided that, okay, I want her off the breast by right before her first birthday. She's going to start transitioning to whole milk, regular milk, cow's milk, so we'll be fine. And she does solids, like I said. So I said, okay, when do I really want her off? And I said, I want to breastfeed her as long as possible, but I want her off the breast before her first birthday. So I really want to make sure she's weaned by 11 months. So I had to backtrack on the calendar. I got my calendar out and I thought about how long that was going to take. What I did was I started my calendar every Sunday and went a full week. So Sunday to Sunday, Sunday to Sunday. And I decided each week I would take out a different feed and supplement it with formula instead. So like the first week I took out the afternoon milk, the afternoon breastfeeding. So for that lunch session, that whole week, I didn't do that session. I skipped that session, but I would do all the other sessions. Then the next week I would do lunch and dinner. Then the next week I would do a different one. So I've been doing this for a few weeks now. So week by week, I've taken off a feed every week. So Sunday to Sunday. So for example, for this week, I just took out, today is Tuesday, I just took out the morning feed. So yesterday, Monday, was the first day I didn't feed her any breast milk for morning. I just did food and formula. I'll do this for a whole other week before transitioning to taking out that last night feed. You guys understand? I will try to put my calendar, I'll try to say it a different way just in case somebody doesn't understand. So basically you get your calendar. If you say, I want the baby off the breast from 2 months from now. Usually for this method, I would give myself about 2.5 months. So whenever you want your baby to be fully off the breast in 2 months, I would plan ahead. And you go with your calendar, and week by week you decide which week you're going to take out which feed, and you take that out for a whole week so that your body is slowly getting used to taking that feed out. Now, the way you decide which feeds you want to take out is you go from, this is what I did, because there is a emotional component where your baby is attached to breastfeeding. So to make it easier on you and your baby, because it's emotional for both, you take out the feed that is the most, like, the baby's least favorite. So there are times as a breastfeeding mom, especially a mom who directly latches on the breast, you will notice that your baby loves a specific feed. I know my daughter loves the morning feeds and the night feeds the most. So I left those for the end. Like I said, I'm at the time where I only do night feeds. I took out the morning feed this past week. I'm at the end. So I know that she stopped being interested after a while in the afternoon feed, the lunch feed. She did still breastfeed in the lunch feed, but she was like less interested, a little distracted. So I was like, oh, she doesn't really like that one. So that was the first one I took out. Then after that, I took out what's her extra bottle. She would do like a cluster bottle during the day. I took that out next. Then I did dinner. Then I did my morning pump, because I would pump before she woke up. Then I did my night pump. So those were kind of ones that didn't affect her. That was for my comfort. And then now I took out the morning feed, and then next I'll take out the night feed, and then I won't latch her anymore. Once I stop latching her, another important thing to note, once you're done not latching your baby, you're not necessarily done weaning, depending on who you are. For me, my breast milk is not nearly fully dry yet. So once you finish latching your baby, your breast milk is going to be reduced, but it might not be fully dried up. So you might have to do things to dry it up. So once I'm done breastfeeding her completely, like in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to start taking this, which is by Pink Stork. It's a no flow, and you take this for a month to dry up any residual breast milk, because you don't want to get clogged ducts out of nowhere when you've already been done not breastfeeding your baby. So that's what I would do. That was my little method. Once I decided that, you know what, she's 10 months now, I want her done with breastfeeding by her first birthday, I said it's going to take about 2 months. I started. So like I said, I got out my calendar, and I literally made a calendar where I wrote every Sunday. From the first Sunday I decided to wean her off, I put like, okay, I'm going to stop the lunch feed. And from Sunday to the following Sunday, I would just stop the lunch feed, and I would do all the other feeds like normal. Then the next week, I said, okay, I'm going to take out the dinner feed. So Sunday to Sunday, I would no longer breastfeed for now lunch, because I already did lunch, right? Now dinner. And for that whole week, I would do no lunch, no dinner, but all the rest would be normal. Then the next week after that, I did the extra feed. So it would be, okay, no lunch, no dinner, extra feed. But now all the other ones are normal, and so on and so forth for the last 2 months. And now I'm finally reaching the end. And like I said, after I'm done in these next 2 weeks with all the night feeds and she's no longer latching on me at all, I'm still going to take this to make sure that for the next month that any residual milk is dried up, so I don't get any complications. So that would be my tips. The thing is that you want to make sure that your baby is still getting all the nutrients. One of the things I was concerned about is that my baby sleeps through the night with breastfeeding, and I was concerned that she was going to go through a regression. She did go through a bit of a regression. Maybe for like 4 days she didn't sleep well. Once I started weaning her, she kind of had to get used to it, but she's been pretty good. You want to make sure that you are estimating the amount of milk you're making and trying to supplement that with formula. So I knew that when we were breastfeeding, she would do about 3 ounces, and I knew for her age she would usually eat about 6, but she didn't. So I knew my breast must be making 3, and my formula was 3. So I was able to then supplement. That meant I was giving her now food and 6 ounces of formula, which is what I'm doing now, which is good for her age. So what I'm saying is, weaning takes planning and time. You're not going to wean your baby in 1 or 2 weeks. If you do that, you're going to risk infection. Your baby might be stressed out and uncomforted. It might be very emotional for you. It's been very sad for me. So I would remember to pre-plan. When you're done breastfeeding, start slow. Do it very slow and take out each feed per week. So even if it takes you 6 to 8 weeks, that's okay, because that's how you're going to prevent infections, complications. You're going to slowly get your baby's digestive system ready to and used to more formula and food, less breast milk. It's also like sometimes it's hard for the babies because they use boobs as a bonding mechanism. So you don't want to cut it off cold turkey. You want to go slow. Sometimes the babies need something else to comfort them, so you might have to rock them more. You might have to hold them more. You might feel emotional. I've been feeling emotional about not breastfeeding her anymore. So take your time, pre-plan, plan it out in your actual calendar, and then I would take some type of drying up supplement at the end to make sure your milk is fully dried up so you don't get any complications out of nowhere. No Flow is really, really good. You take 2 pills a day. You take one in the morning and one in the night for 30 days, and that dries up any extra supply. So if you guys have any more questions about weaning, or if you didn't understand something in this video, please leave it in the comments, and I will either answer it in the comments, or if I get enough questions, I can always do another Q&A about weaning. But I hope this helped anyone who's starting their breastfeeding journey and wondering how they're going to wean their baby off, or someone who had a really good breastfeeding journey but is just ready to stop breastfeeding. As always, like, share, subscribe, leave any questions, like I said, in the comments, and I will see you guys next week.